fear will facilitate either freezing or escape.
Right.
But sometimes fear isn't the right response, and anger will suppress fear. And so one of the tools that we have at our disposal psychologically is anger as an antidote to the terror that would otherwise freeze you.
This country was started because people were upset about tea, tax on tea, and said, you know what, fuck all the bullshit. Dumping that shit in the ocean, we getting to jumping. Hello and welcome, my fellow truth seekers and delusional optimists. It's GEMiNi the Alchemist taking flight to you today to restore the love of the truth and to establish peace and prosperity. In this video, we will be discussing how to utilize anger for your positive benefit, how to transmute it into higher paradigms, and to refrain from allowing it to create tension and frustration that would inevitably impact your energy. So this is something I've been experiencing a lot lately, and I've been getting better at identifying why and where it comes from. And so I've actually filmed this video several times because I haven't really known, like, is the best way to express this through my own vulnerability, or is it through just giving you the tools and allowing you to make your own inferences and your own applications. So I'm going to do a little bit of both, but do my best to make it as structured as possible because I'm still formulating my own thoughts and creating the plan for my own greatest outcome through my own life situations and circumstances and frustrations and the things that create and build anger, right? So that's something that I see young men in particular experience, and a lot of my friends who I relate with the most are my friends who are of entrepreneurial endeavors and pursuits, and usually a lot of us feel a lot of frustration and express a lot of frustration to each other. And ultimately, through that expression, our goal is to articulate what the greatest outcome would be, right? What is the most urgent thing to do to overcome this conflict that we mutually experience? Ultimately, that's how businesses are formed, right? A business is solving a problem. When a problem is identified and experienced, usually, maybe not usually, but in particular for this instance, right, for this conversation, anger could be a part of why that is urgent to someone, right? If someone is solving a problem, it might be something that made them feel angry, frustrated, disenfranchised, whatever the case may be for them that they're experiencing in their heart at that moment. But anger doesn't come from your heart. Anger comes from your sexual organs, your adrenals. Your anger is expressed through sex and aggression. But aggression can be channeled into discourse, right? Into communicating how we gonna do business to solve this problem. Through the initiative, right? Through taking initiative, you now bring that energy up from the sexual organs into your stomach, right? That's when you have the fire in your belly. That's when you can take action. Anger is a very fiery emotion, and it creates initiative for action. But if that fire is quelled, if that fire isn't fueled or isn't utilized properly, then you wasted fire and you created destruction, theoretically. Or you just wasted fuel at the very least. So, how do you actually channel that fire? How do you prioritize what you do with that fire? So, that fire is something that I came to really understand about myself through a season of celibacy about a year and a half ago. An intentional season of celibacy and semen retention and utilizing that energy to go to the gym like 6 days a week. Best shape I've seen myself thus far. I mean, not the best strength, but definitely the best shape aesthetically. And I was having a lot of growth in my production quality as well as quantity. I was getting a lot more consistent, but I would notice about a week in, anytime I harness that energy intentionally, about a week in, there's this anger that comes up. And I learned more about it in a book by celibate monks in the Himalayas. And in this, I don't remember the title of this book. It's in my very vast PDF archive. I could find it though if someone wanted the answer. So comment below if that's interesting to you. And they were talking about one of the very first tenets, one of the very first trials of Hercules, if you will, in that endeavor is anger. Because anger is the yang component, aggression is the yang component to sex. Sex and aggression. Mars, Tuesday, Mars Day, the day of sex and aggression, the day of those energies, right? There's more that goes into sex and aggression, but it's what lays the foundation for your conquests for the rest of the week. It takes anger, it takes aggression to enact conquest, to do business. It takes anger, like we have discussed, to really have the aggressive, assertive energy, to have the initiative to take action on business and of things that enlighten your pride and purpose and your passion. And so the things that inhibit your pride and your purpose and your passion would naturally be the things that create anger. So if you utilize that anger to only do things that enlight your pride, your purpose, and your passion, you would utilize a perceivably negative emotion for positive benefit every single time. You know what? I'm feeling angry right now. Let me excuse myself. I'm gonna go hit the gym. Like, we can discuss this later after I've formulated my thoughts and put them to the test. You know, you're putting your muscles to the test when you go work out. You're seeing what you're capable of and what you can accomplish, right? Overcoming the pain. Your muscles are literally tearing. So your mind is going through a similar experience when you work out. So exercise is the most urgent thing to do, in my opinion, when anger is experienced. Because then you don't have to worry about that anger plaguing the mind. If we're thinking about it through a dimensional standpoint, through a chakra perspective, second chakra and your sixth chakra are mutually exclusive. Your sex organs and your brain. Right. The top of your nervous system to the very bottom of your spine. Right. Theoretically, the bottom of your nervous system, other than as far as it protrudes down to your feet. So if you experience anger, the first thing you would want to do would be alleviate the mind, so that the mind can be utilized for more than experiencing, expressing, and etc. anger. Because if you're expressing anger, you're not utilizing your fifth chakra well, and you're really wasting energy if you're not utilizing it to solve the problem. Right? It's the difference between cursing something and blessing something. I think that a blockage for vulnerability could be, and something that I've experienced as a blockage for vulnerability has been not wanting to express something negative to not make negative paradigms true. And to some extent, that is true unless you need to express it. If you feel like I need to express this and I will accomplish catharsis from expressing it, express. But I've had times where I felt that way and I feel like I complicated the situation or just made someone else feel like, oh, damn, like he's going through something difficult right now. And not like you really even get compassion like that. Even if it was someone I expected compassion from, or to have a generative conversation. So don't bottle it up, but don't allow the conversation to be something that could create more frustration for the problem. That's not something you would want. Even if that other person wants to give you that, they might not be capable, or you might not even be able to express it well enough to get it off of your mind, to be out of that state, to be in a better state for your voice to be working better. So if we go back to the spiritual dimensional perspective of looking through chakras and how your body is literally vibrating when you're experiencing these things, let's go back to your third chakra. So if you're in your second chakra, experiencing anger, you now have to move into your third chakra by having initiative, by then taking action, not getting lost in your thoughts, taking action, creating movement with your emotions, creating actual physical motion towards what creates a solution for your fulfilling intentions, purpose, which is your heart. Now you've opened up the fifth gate. Now your voice is working a little better. Now your voice has some fervor in it, because that fire is being, you're breathing flames. That's why people are talking about spitting flames in the studio. That's very, very exact representation allegorically of what's going on in their body energetically, and to what energies are being expressed and how. Right, so you have to take action to speak about it better. So sometimes you can waste a lot of time and energy in expression when you haven't taken action yet. So it goes back to physical exercise being the most urgent thing to do, and then actually capitalizing on your goals. Like today, similar to last week's Mars Day, woke up later than I had planned, went to sleep later than I had planned, and it made me feel like I had a lack of order in my conquests. And it's not just a feeling, but it's a literal truth. But that feeling led to anger at myself, at how I structured things, at not just waking up regardless of the circumstances and sacrificing sleep for the maximum benefit of creating consistency of routine and maintaining consistency of routine. And so I realized that I just had to take action. Ultimately, the only way I was going to overcome that anger was going and doing the things anyway, and just having faith that my time is abundant. What else was I going to do? Just feel mad all day and pouty and shit? No. You have to utilize that yang energy. But the yang energy is highly conflicted, and I'm convinced that is the origin of spiritual warfare. The origin of spiritual warfare and the diversion of the truth is very clearly to weaken young men. You see it all around us in the world. You see young men getting canceled and deplatformed for violation of terms of service, when young women can get on the internet and sell themselves. Young women can get on the same platform, right? Young men can hop on and voice their opinions, but if they don't resonate with the left brain, yin, the feminine component, if you don't agree with the LGBTQ agenda and movement and any aspect of it, if you disagree with any aspect of it, there's this fear that your expression will be restricted. And expression is the yang component, right? A lot of people who have right values are under warfare just for speaking, but people with left values expect you to be able to accept anything that they purport. And that warfare over expression impacts men the most, because men are the people naturally wired to be taking action and having discourse by utilizing the fervor of anger that's often associated with increased or natural levels of testosterone. Because going back to what I was saying with spiritual warfare, that's not wanted, because if men were having that discourse saying, hey, yo, like our freedoms and restrictions are being taken away from us, or our freedom and liberties are being taken from us, we should do something about that. That would cause a huge problem for not just the powers that be, but all the people associated with the ways that things are conducted. Industries are invested in men not having the ability to have revolutionary capacity. Isn't that a shame? This country was started because people were upset about tea, tax on tea, and said, you know what, fuck all the bullshit. Dumping that shit in the ocean, we getting to jumping. That's not what's going on anymore. People internalize their problems. They're programmed to internalize their problems. They're medicated because they experience frustration. They experience sadness because they're not utilizing that sadness by transmuting it into anger, by transmuting it into action, and actually solving their fucking problems. They take the medication to wipe away from their mind why they're even experiencing that to begin with. And then they don't think that they live in a real world. Now they're in fucking clown world. Now they're tapped into the news and the media. Now they think they need to agree with every single woke opinion. And y'all can already know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't need to elaborate any further. I will get there. I will definitely get there, but not everything has to be a war on the actual PC culture. But the PC culture doesn't like to acknowledge men's problems because the world is convinced that women's problems are worse than men's problems. And so then when men discuss men's problems, they're often laughed at, often by other men. Oh, you're a man. What do you want most out of life? Supreme confidence and abundance. To have the most energy possible. Manifesting generators. So of course men in the world of restrictions of their voice and restrictions of whether or not they can breathe fresh air that day because we got clown masks floating around in the air. Of course, young men and the confidence of young men who haven't been able to experience the world in earnest and take action in the world in earnest, to be seen and perceived and to do business in the world in earnest, are frustrated. And what do young men often experience when they're frustrated? Anger. This video ultimately was inspired by a video I watched earlier today of Jordan B. Peterson interviewing Robert Greene, the author of 48 Laws of Power and Laws of Human Nature and Mastery and other incredible books. He's a truly phenomenal author. He's truly an amazing writer and orator. And Jordan B. Peterson said to him that anger is the antidote to fear. I might have even already said this in this video. But you know what? It needs to be said twice if that's the case, because it's a very, very valuable expression. Taking flight, that shit's so hard to do. I don't think y'all understand. Like, I'll retake this shit just because I'll be like, I hope nobody thinks I'm doing a gang sign. 737, got the 33 heart, got the sevens for 777, 777, quadruple 7 energy. We out here manifesting peace and prosperity, like I say every single day. Taking flight to restore the love of the truth, because the truth is under warfare, and we see it every day, we experience it every day, and it creates a lot of anger and frustration. It really does. And it's experienced, but I don't feel like it's talked about enough. And I feel like the people that do talk about it are seen as being crazy, irate, and often get canceled. Because a lot of the atrocities of the world are truly in spirit and truly in consciousness and are involved largely with people's delusions and the delusions that have been created by manipulation of things like television. And so then the perspectives being lost from truth, you know, we got bots, like a lot of YouTubers like to say, who are devoid of critical thinking. That's a pretty frustrating environment to be in, whether or not you try to focus it or not focus on it, because some people find bliss in not focusing on that, right? And yes, we will get to actually utilizing anger for good, but let's establish why a lot of people are angry right now, young men in particular. So this anger at this systematic way of being, you can't wake up and just not be in that anymore, even if you're, you know, focusing your intention on just gonna think of better outcomes and manifest better paradigms. And you know, truly, ultimately, for some, I think that is the best route to go. But for some, that anger at the way of the state of affairs is what creates action, and that anger is a necessary reality, because to ignore it would to be ultimately blue pilling yourself from the matrix. And that analogy, it may be a little cliche, but it's the best metaphor. It really is the best metaphor for it. Why would you choose to not see the truth? Because it makes you feel better. That is the fundamental basis of bot behavior. So that's an L in itself. Why would you not give yourself the truth? That'd be like not plugging in your phone and you have the opportunity. It's going to run out of juice eventually. It's going to be, the screen will be blank. Do you want to give yourself energy? Do you want to be competent? And would you like to be able to communicate the state of affairs and reality? Or would you rather just be comfortable? Because that is not as attractive and generative of an emotion, a state of being to be in. Anger creates a lot of energy and motion, emotion. Anger is essentially just aggression. It is expressed as aggression. And aggression is discourse. I'm expressing aggression by filming this video right now. I'm expressing better ideas. I'm expressing new developments of my own communication, right? I'm getting into deeper realms of my mind and into my ability to take action, because taking action is what creates solution to overcome the anger. Now, part of the systematic frustration experienced by many, experienced by all of us, to some extent, even those with abundance, is the financial system. And if you have paid attention to the state of affairs thus far, you would see that a lot of money has been taken from the common man for absolute bullshit. And because of that, the cash flow of the bottom markets is restricted. That is a direct front on local business, on small business, on demographically young men. And so now, because people's way of doing business has been impacted to some way, shape, or form, and what is even relevant and how you conduct business, like the space between you, now that's gotten in the way of fulfillment and purpose and passion, and actually expressing the light that comes as the fruits of your labor, from utilizing aggression properly and not wasting that energy. And so if that fulfillment is restricted, then the expression can feel restricted, right? 2, sexual energy. 3, action. 4, passion. 5, expression. So the positive release isn't there. The positive release has to then come as in the form of discourse. If you're not creating discourse of actually how am I creating solutions to my problems, it can be really easy to get lost in the negative, right? Because sometimes the negative can be really hard to express, especially because that can feel like it's getting in the way of your manifestation. Why would you express something negative? Sometimes that's vulnerability, and vulnerability is very necessary. And vulnerability is something that the world has confused young men to feel is unnecessary, that it gets in the way of your own intrinsic masculine energy, that it is something to be laughed at, or that people would mock you for, or see you as less than for expressing. And that's a really slippery slope, because to some extent, partially because of that delusion, people will naturally see it that way, and you have to accept that. I cried when I completed my second beat album, Caution Tape Volume 2, Beat Tape. I felt incredible catharsis when I got that done. I felt incredibly proud of myself. Like, those tears were, damn, I just seen my nigga Naruto do it tears. I just saw me do it tears. That was some of the most positive expression of my entire life. And I even shared a clip where I was laughing, like, bro, like, why am I crying right now? And I had people that slid up and be like, wow, crying on Instagram couldn't be me. And I was like, but I'm not even down bad or nothing. Like, I'm proud of myself. Why should I feel bad about crying for that? Like, if more people were crying because of happiness than sadness, I feel like the world would be a way better place. I don't know how anyone could disagree with that. Would even think they disagree with that. But, like, going back to the dimensions of things, that expression is restricted. A lot of people don't talk how they really want to talk because, damn, YouTube might delete my video if I say some shit about the clown virus. I said that word, so this video might just get flagged in itself. People don't want to talk about their real opinions because they don't want to get canceled, because they might lose their job, or it might impact their music career, or they're in an art community and a lot of the people in the art community are highly associated with left values, and we all know what side of the spectrum gets the most slander for expressing their opinions. So that creates a lot of frustration. That gets in the way of people's music. Shit, I make music and then I'll be sitting there thinking about, like, how it'll be perceived by others. That's spiritual warfare in itself, because that's joining the conversation and being part of the discourse. And sometimes the discourse turns into discord, and then you got retrograde action. And that's just not fun. But why would you choose to be comfortable? You could really solve a problem. Right? They say that the testosterone of men is down like 40+% in the last 50 years. That's a huge fucking problem. Like, we should be talking about that a lot more. We should be talking about that a lot more than a lot of the bullshit I see people talking about and complaining about a lot. But a lot of the times it gets to the communication of discussing issues and the masculine component of things. A lot of people will then join the conversation and say, well, women's problems are worse. And it's like, well, we're not even discussing what is better or worse, because better or worse is a subjective concept. But with that being said, a lot of people are subject to this issue and aren't even aware of it. And this information is intentionally not what's being shared with them. And we can establish that what is being shared with them is part of the issue. And part of the issue, too, is not enough men are going outside and going into the world and really allowing themselves to have that discourse to be in the right environment amongst other men and have their own natural competition, which would invoke that testosterone, invoke that masculine flame within them. But instead they're inside with their mask on, right? That is a visual representation of the muzzle that has been placed on we the people, because that's what gets in the way of real revolution, real radical change, because the system in place doesn't want real radical change. And a lot of people have been indoctrinated into being comfortable, and their complacency makes them fear real radical change. And because of that, the crabs in the barrel of society, the crabs in the bucket, are gonna try to pull down the people making real radical change. Because damn, like, I was real comfy over here with my artificial hormones pumped into me, and with all of this sugar in my body, and with these antidepressants that make it so, depressants that make it feel like I don't have any real problem in the world, or the problems in the world that they are fixated on aren't even real travesties, but are really just things of their own personal interest that they then project upon themselves and victimize themselves for. So that gets in the way of people really taking action, because shit, I know plenty of people that want to be on YouTube talking every day but don't. And it's that fear, it's that false evidence appearing real that the world's gonna come for you. Haters are gonna come from anywhere, but people on the internet can do that in abundance, and they also have a whole culture of doing that. And so that creates frustration, because one of the best ways to attract clients and to attract business and to attract people on your wavelength is by using the internet. And then if you're not utilizing that tool, or utilizing the capacity to do so in person, in earnest, to really manifest community and to manifest solutions for your business and for others, and to really solve problems in the world, has been restricted because the problems of the world are in your face all day. And that creates a lot of anger. That creates a whole lot of anger. And then that creates spiritual warfare within the mind. Because, am I living my highest truth? Am I really being rational and taking action and bringing my energy, emotion down to earth, and clinging to the right values? Or you can be lost in the chaos, or constantly going between the two and just being like, fuck, getting worn out by it. The solution always has been going to war, conquest, revolution, energy in the right direction. A lot of people talking about Mars and GEMiNi, a lot of people talking about Mercury retrograde that aren't even into astrology, because these are like big occurrences happening in the stars right now. 6 planets are in retrograde right now. Mars is in a sign for usually 2 to 3 months. Mars is in GEMiNi for 7 until January, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Mars is how we go to war, right? We're going to war in communication and in thought forms. How are you developing your mind right now? What are you consuming to create yourself right now? You become what you eat, you are what you eat, you are what you think, you are what you do. Because then, we're in Mercury retrograde. Mercury is in Virgo, I think. Virgo or Libra. Libra's in 2 spots, Virgo in 2 spots. I didn't bring my journal. I'm gonna just have to update in the description, so I don't want to be incorrect. However, the point of the matter is that Mercury retrograde is associated with going through feelings of, associated with Virgo of, like, damn, I've been here. Like, I've been through this feeling before. How do I not feel this again? What do I need to do? To free the tension and everything. 7th chakra. Right now, it's having those communications. It's getting out into the world. It's utilizing initiative. It's overcoming fear, but allowing fear to be the fuel for anger, and allowing anger to be the fuel for action, and for resolution, and for passion, and purpose, and expression, and for balance, and for restoring the love of the truth. Downright, period. Exclamation mark. So, with all that being said, I'm going to discuss the 3 dimensions of utilizing anger for your positive benefit. And we're all going to go on and have a powerful, productive, and prosperous day. So, as far as physical release of aggression, anger, is firstly through sex. But if you utilize that energy for sex, you are wasting, I don't want to say wasting, you are not creating productive energy, productive motion, unless your intention for that sex is to create another life. Now, don't get me wrong, pleasure is valuable and beautiful and necessary, but it is what it is, and that energy is valuable. So with that energy, physical release would be through physical exercise, exerting yourself. Exerting yourself also looks like going outside, going into the world, being amongst others, and having communication, having discourse. So that then perfectly ties us over to the mind. So communication for the mind, but also communication with yourself. Journaling, recording yourself speaking, whether that's through the production of music, through a podcast, or just talking to yourself on camera. I filmed this video plenty of times today. Bam. Every time I film it, I have moments where I'm like, am I about to start over? Because I might just start over. Even in incredible takes to have incredible value, and I plan to rewatch and value I documented for myself, regardless of the circumstances and regardless of the utility. So for the mind, it is also taking action on your passions and your purpose. So for me, doing so, I'm creating a video. That's very largely associated with my passion, my purpose, restoring the love of the truth, and creating real solutions for creating peace and prosperity, and teaching other people why meditation is so valuable, why the quality of the water that you drink is so valuable, why habits and routines like journaling and meditation are so necessary, and anytime I fall short of these habits and routines, it creates anger, frustration, and tension in my life. And anger, frustration, and tension create dis-ease. And dis-ease can be in the spirit. Disease can be in all of us. It can be in our collective mind, it can be in our individual minds, and overcoming that dis-ease is very largely associated with freeing the mind and the body, because then now your spirit has space to be free. So overcoming anger by exerting yourself, by going out into the world, fuels your spirit by giving you the ability to be seen in your expression, and choosing to be seen in your expression, allowing yourself to be seen in your expression. But it also comes through the physical component of just being there, right? You have overcome anything in your mind that had created the blockage of you being where abundance is, and that is out into the world. There's an abundance of other people. There's an abundance of life around me. Being in nature and transmuting that anger into going out to allow yourself to internalize yourself and to understand yourself better is energy that you can take action upon and utilize for overcoming anger. But sometimes when you're angry, you don't want to do those things. So you allow yourself to be in the condition to do those things after you've freed the body and the mind. So after you've exercised, after you have had sex, after you have done the work for yourself necessary for managing that energy and learning what you need to do ultimately for yourself to put yourself in the best position. What works for me might not be the workflow you might need to go through. You might just be able to take a cold shower and cool off. You also might need to hit the gym, hit the sauna, and hit the cold shower, and go outside and voice yourself on the camera to really get yourself figured out and sorted out that day. You might have to then journal after that or before that or all the above, right? To bring alignment to everything. Because when you have alignment for everything, you're a beacon for light, you're a beacon for truth. And creating real radical shifts. Having energy that is attractive. And attractive energy attracts abundance. When you utilize your intuition to take action on your ambition, and there's nothing to be mad about because you've created peace and prosperity. Learned what it took to do that. Actually taken the action. Spent time to pause and reflect on how you could do it better. Allow yourself space in your schedule for your emotional development so that you could even do those things. Giving yourself time for the love and appreciation of yourself to be in the optimal state and energy to even be interested in doing those things. And having the best schedule and routine that lets you know when and why to do all those things. And what to prioritize, how to prioritize it. Because when you don't do those things, that can create anger. Often that creates anger at oneself. And then people get lost in self-hatred. But it's a very slippery slope between identifying that you want to be better and identifying that oneself just doesn't like the position they're in, because that can make you feel like you don't like yourself because you have manifested that outcome nonetheless. And that's a difficult thing to feel because, shit, I feel that damn near every day, bro. Because it's like, damn, I'm very competent, I'm very intelligent, and I've accomplished a lot, so like, why am I not there yet? It's like, well, those are just steps in the process of building that structure. Sometimes you gotta grind your stepping stones into place, into form, to fit the structure, to fit the design. And so when you don't fit your own design, of course it's frustrating, because then now you got to get back to the grind. Sometimes the grind hurts. Sometimes the grind is difficult. Sometimes you run into roadblocks that are getting in the way of you putting your blocks in place. Minecraft is just a really sped up experience of life from a very fundamental perspective. You build up every single thing you do one little bit at a time. You build up yourself one bit at a time. Sometimes there are lots of bits out of place, or sometimes you got to move the whole structure, and it takes destruction to do that. And sometimes it isn't until you recognize dis-ease that you recognize that you need to demolish to get rid of the demons that's holding you back. But take a good breath, have a good, real quality look in the mirror, and say, damn boy, it's time to get to the gym. I don't look like a Sports Illustrated model yet, but I don't have to be upset about that. I don't have to let the anger be for nothing. Why would you be angry at yourself for not being somewhere that you want to be? Like, shut the fuck up and get there. Sometimes it's hard to tell yourself that, and if you're going through the frustrated emotions associated with that, first of all, hopefully this 26 minutes and 22 seconds of this video thus far have helped you a lot with that, so that me making that statement didn't offend you. But sometimes it's necessary to feel offended to realize that maybe my way of thinking wasn't right. That's why personal humor is so valuable. Shit, I be making fun of myself all the time. But shit, I'd rather make fun of myself than have someone make fun of me because I didn't see the things in myself that needed to be made fun of to begin with. Or just learn how to laugh at those things and recognize that they're just something that are to be laughed at. Right? You don't have to be upset about aspects of yourself you don't like if you can feature them. I'm really forgetful. I don't think I've ever said that statement in I'm before, because it's like something that's been so frustrating for me my whole life. Family getting mad at me for forgetting shit. Forgetting my wallet going down the stairs and having to go back up. And just projecting shit on myself when I do that. I think that the people around me feel like it makes me look incompetent or shit. But when I'm just like, ha ha ha, like, of course the GEMiNi forgot the shit, you know. Only makes sense. I'm walking around thinking a lot. Trying to be in my body more. Really, that's the work I'm doing right now. These videos I make, a lot of the time the videos I make are just the work I'm doing in life at that point in time. Like, there's words I wrote yesterday just in my natural process of taking time to write and create every day that are immediately reflexive of me making this video today. But this video today is entirely inspired by a video I saw earlier with Jordan B. Peterson and Robert Greene that I'm sure I've mentioned in this tape, and I'll put in the description because it's incredibly valuable and something that I would like to be shared in the world, by the world, to the world, and to impact consciousness. Everything comes together when you're doing the work. I feel incredibly peaceful right now. Even though I feel like the end of this video has a lot of pause and break in it, I feel like it's incredibly valuable. There we go. That goes right back to what I was discussing. There's times where I could even forget the exact aim of what I was expressing, because ultimately what mattered more so than the point is the expression. And in the pursuit of the point, the expression can be misconstrued. Sometimes the expression needs to be a spiral because the point is what's creating the motion. It's the vertex. It's the fulcrum. The point is why you're in motion. The point doesn't have to be somewhere that's arrived at, because oftentimes you get to a destination that is what establishes the work that needs to be done. Okay, you got to the destination, that's cool. You still got a performance to do. The performance ain't like how you liked it, even if it was received well. You might feel angry and frustrated because you want to be better. And it's okay to want to feel better. And it's okay to feel angry because you want to feel better. You don't have to be upset about the aspects of being that you feel like are flawed, because a lot of times our flaws become our features, and our features become what make us lovable, or especially lovable to others. Right? One of the cutest characters in any anime or cartoon is the character that's a little derpy. The character that's a little derpy is loved by everyone and is protected by everyone. You don't have to be in your fullness to be loved and protected, because it could be the things that when you trip and fall that make other people laugh and smile and bring them love and joy for themselves and for you. So don't let cancel culture make you feel making mistakes, because regardless of any devastating responses, it's pretty funny how quickly people forget about things like that. Like, I've had times where I had a time where I essentially got canceled for just making a tweet about how I was feeling about underground rap music, because I encountered a high frequency of it, a whole lot of it every day, and just was starting to just feel like tired of it. And I had people stop talking to me because of that shit. I was like, damn, I wasn't even like talking about you, bro, in any way, shape, or form. I wasn't talking about anyone specifically, but just speaking my mind on the frequency of how often I heard the same statements and words from people who didn't experience or actually have those things in their life. And it's like, well, shit, what are you going through in your life? Because my favorite artists are the dudes who are able to talk about the games they're playing at that time and make that shit hard. Like, what are you up to? How do you feel right now, bro? Or are you just mad? And so you're just expressing that you're mad. And how about we have a better conversation about that than just talking about killing people? And like I said, I had friends stop talking to me because I started that conversation. People I really cared about. Because I also was defending myself from the world going crazy at that point in time in response. And so that also got in the way of my perception. Robert Greene talks about that a lot, where it's like my energy, emotion, the emotion created an earthquake and got in the way of my goals in a way, but it was incredibly valuable for the development of my consciousness. And so I would fixate on the fact that it got in the way of my goals, when I had to learn how that was for my greater benefit. Usually, when you have a mistake or a downfall, it's something that's incredibly necessary for your next step. And that's what delusional path means. I've explained that word a lot, but at the end of the day, that is it. You have to know how to, that if I trip and fall, what's my first move to stand up? Oh, I tripped and fell, but because of that, I saw this other path down the way that we actually needed to take. Or, oh, I saw that there was poison ivy right there because I tripped and fell. Sometimes tripping and falling is God doing God work, and you just need to let it happen. And if you fear tripping and falling, you wouldn't have even been outside on the adventure to begin with. And how is God gonna work through you if you're living in fear instead of being where you need to be to receive your blessings? With the 3344 on the timer. Deep breath on that one. So going back to my own relationship with myself, because I feel like that's ultimately what's wrapping up the point here, getting to the bottom of it, the bottom of the vortex. My relationship with myself and forgetful tendencies, things of that nature, I feel like would be perceived by others as a lack of intelligence in a way. And intelligence, as the chief GEMiNi himself, is to cultivate intelligence and integrity, especially of thought and word, and ultimately of deed, with that being said. And so I think about that and fixate on that a lot. And you know, I've had a lot of painful lessons in my own hypocrisy and where I fall short in my own endeavors of really expressing those things in earnest. And so I realized that when I think things like projecting it on others that they think less of me, it's because ultimately I'm thinking less of myself in that moment, instead of just thinking about how that instance was necessary for God to do God work. And for me to have faith that, damn, maybe I needed to come back up the stairs today for 3 times. Maybe the stove was off. But I've also had a painful experience in life teaching me to make sure that the stove was off. And it was not a fire, but it lit up a fire in my spirit. And sometimes that devastation is necessary to plant a whole new forest. Forest fires are a natural disaster.
Ambition is a good thing It means that you believe in yourself, you have some self-love, and you believe you're worth something, and you want to go out and achieve and create something worthwhile for other people. So ambition is a positive thing, but so many people are just kind of embarrassed about being a human being, embarrassed about our primate nature, embarrassed about our own aggressive impulses. I definitely have a shadow side. I'm very aggressive and extremely competitive, and I have a lot of anger. So a lot of those experiences in my youth made me very angry. But the way I kind of integrated my shadow, I'm not saying this is a model, but the way I integrated it was through my books. I kind of, that anger kind of seeps through the material that I write, and I find I can only write when I have that kind of anger. But I don't rant. I don't yell and kind of put people down. I kind of channel it into something productive and something creative. And so to me,
I definitely do that when I'm lecturing.
Uh-huh.
You know, and people have commented, you know, some of the people who've criticized me that I'm an angry person, and which isn't true, but it's definitely that anger, that capacity for anger definitely is something that gives you force